Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com and we'll take a look at them a little bit later on. Today we're going to be playing with a new Titania card. While the 5-mana Titania has made many appearances on this channel in the past in the Applejacks deck, an Orcish Lumberjack deck, today we're going to be playing with Titania, Voice of Gaea. And I know this is a little awkward to have this entire thing up here on screen, but it is going to be important as we are going to be playing. Why did I zoom in on the land? You already can see the land. As we're going to be playing the land as well, and we're going to try to do some melding here. Alright, so this is a 3/4 with reach. Whenever one or more land cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, you gain 2 life. Note that that is from anywhere, so if you do something like Life from the Loam and you throw some cards into your graveyard that way, you're going to gain some life. It is 1 or more land cards though, so keep that in mind. Now let's take a look at the important part. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more land cards in your graveyard, and you both own and control Titania, Voice of Gaea, and a land named Argoth, Sanctum of Nature, exile them and then meld them into Titania Gaea Incarnate, which has Vigilance, Trample, Reach, Haste, an absolute buttload of power and toughness, equal to the number of lands you control. When it enters the battlefield, you get to return all the land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped, and if you're not tired of all of that text yet, you also get to put 4+1/+1 counters on target land you control and turn it into an elemental with haste for the low cost of 4 mana. Whew. So our goal for today is to get this sucker into play and meld it and win some games with it. Now, there's some cute things going on with this deck list. Titania is really nice with fetch lands in particular, as your fetch lands end up gaining you life. And if you have other things that are going to end up putting lands into your graveyard, well, that's going to help you gain some life too. So we are essentially using the Naya Depths shell, and we're kind of throwing these Titanias into them. This originally started as a one of, but I really want to see us meld this thing, so I threw a second one in there so we can naturally draw it a little bit more. We've got a couple of ways to win. One of the easy ones is assembling Dark Depths and Thespian stage, and you use stage to copy depths to make a 20/20 creature that's usually big enough to kill your opponent in one shot. Otherwise, we can kind of do a mid-range beatdown plan, or we can kind of have some cards that we can tutor up that might specifically end up wrecking a matchup. We do just have some raw powerful cards like Minsc and Boo here that can take over games as well. Notably, when constructing this deck list, I really wanted to include Undermountain Adventurer as a Green Sun target that can take the initiative. That seemed really gross to me, but it's unfortunately not on Magic Online, as sort of evidenced by that red border around it. Paper Legacy and Magic Online, unfortunately, still aren't 1-for-1. As far as the sideboard goes here, we have some specific removal spells / counter spells for blue decks like Blue-Red Delver. And one of the things that's on my mind right now is how do I beat an initiative deck? That's kind of what I'm thinking about with every deck, and that's why I wanted to have a green sunnable way to take the initiative. And failing that, I opted to just play a couple of Seasoned Dungeoneer. I think it's better to play this over the less expensive White Plume Adventurer, because this can help to push a giant Knight of the Reliquary or a Marit Lage through opposing blockers, and that sounded like some good tech to me. Otherwise, there's a couple of silver bullets that we can tutor for one way or another, and I think that's really all I have to say here. Let's go ahead and jump into the games, and let's see if we can do the thing. I feel pretty confident that the overall power level of this deck is high, and while a lot of times when I'm asked to do the thing on a channel, I think it's a bit of a stretch, this time around, I think with Crop Rotation and Reclaimer and Knight to tutor for this land, and 2 copies of this as well as Green Sun, I think we'll do the thing at least once. Anyway, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. It supports the channel and is free, plus you get to see all sorts of new sweet deck lists. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It's one of the easiest ways to support my content for free. Let's battle. All right, opening hand is a little tough here in that this is an ETB tapped. This can be a Dryad Arbor. I don't easily get to Ramunap, and I don't have combo potential here. I don't have any fetch land for this. I can put a land into graveyard with Crop Rotation. I don't actually think this hand is that good. I'm gonna try to mulligan for something better. This is a weird one now. If Wasteland is good against my opponent, this hand's pretty good. If we're just playing against the initiative or something like that, and my opponent gets a creature into play, I'm kind of dead here. I think it's better to go to 5 than to keep a speculative Wasteland hand. Hey, this is what I'm talking about. This is a keep. Probably Sylvan Safekeeper goes back. And I think I just ban a Swords to Plowshares here too. And just kind of stay on plan. The plan is make Marit Lage ASAP. So let's play Mox Diamond. We're going to get rid of the tapped land here. I think I'm just going to cast this and see whether or not this gets countered immediately before I make my land drop. From there, it doesn't matter too much which land I play. I suppose I would rather have a Savannah wastelanded, but it's pretty close. Alright, we are potentially playing against Doomsday after seeing an Underground Sea on the other side of the battlefield. There's other things this could be, but Doomsday tends to be my default thought these days when I see Underground Sea. Okay, there's another land. So we'll play Stage and just go ahead and pass. We'll turn Savannah into Dark Depths, and then I get to make a Marit Lage. This may end up being a little bit too slow if my opponent has, like, Ritual into Doomsday this turn. It would be Cabal well, I mean, it could be a Dark Ritual too, but... The Collective Brutality. Oh my gosh. What year is it? It is Blue-Black Reanimator. So let's go ahead and activate Elvish Reclaimer, sacrificing our Savannah, pick up a Dark Depths, and my opponent has escalated multiple times here. They didn't put a creature into the graveyard immediately. That's nice for me. My opponent does go to 21 though. I don't believe that this is worth playing. I just want to make my creature and try to kill my opponent. So let's go Savannah Pass. I'm not expecting to have to play around Wasteland or Stifle or anything of that nature, so not gonna mess around with anything here. Ooh, there's a Grizzlebrand, and without my Elvish Reclaimer in play, I can't just tutor up Caracas for an easy win. So I will make my 20/20. It's not just gonna immediately win me the game though. So I keep the one without ice counters so that I make my Marit Lage. And what my opponent probably is going to do here is just block with Grizzlebrand and then draw a bunch of cards. I don't think I am supposed to use this. Okay, so this is interesting. If I cast Crop Rotation, my opponent will probably draw 14 cards in response to looking for Force of Will and will probably counter my thing. I keep Crop Rotation. I can try to use it to get a Dryad Arbor to protect Marit Lage from Archon of Cruelty, which is one of the things that can beat me as of right now. This is interesting. I also could just Crop Rotation for Caracas, and that's pretty good too. Alright, I think there's a couple of different good lines here that make me want to go ahead and do this right now. Okay, it did resolve. So let's do this in the way where my opponent doesn't get to draw cards with his Grizzlebrand right now. Pro black, crash in for 20. Actually, is Caracas just better there? Caracas might just be better there. Or no, my opponent won't be at... Yeah, Caracas might have been better. By Caracas it, Show and Tell can put it back into play if my opponent has that in the main. Caracas is reusable though. Yeah, I think the Caracas was better. It still forces the damage immediately. Yeah, and then, like, this gives them another chump block opportunity in the next turn cycle. Yeah, I should have gotten Caracas. That bails me out, though. Like, Swords to Plowshares this, they go to 7. I crash in for 20. Alright. Bad play on my end. Worked out. I couldn't Force of Will there. They're at 1 life. Alright, first match of the day. I've got to tighten up after that one. So... Endurance is absolutely coming in. Outland Liberator technically isn't out to, like, an Animate Dead, although that's kind of unexciting to me. Deafening Silence on the draw is a little eh. I still might play it. Glacial Chasm is interesting. That feels like it's a maybe. I don't think I'm interested in, like, oof. I've got 5 cards that I'm looking at. Prismatic Ending is pretty weak in this matchup. It can hit some artifact mana, but not too much beyond that. I'm not expecting to need to protect my creature from opposing removal in most cases. How do I feel about Minsc and Boo? Minsc and Boo is a threat that my opponent can't reanimate, which is nice. I'm not in love with Swords to Plowshares, but I think there's enough situations with this deck where I actually can beat a creature that gets into play. And I might need to remove an Archon, or I need to have outs to a Sarah's Emissary. It's probably not a Titania Voice of Gaia matchup, though. I think I'm comfortable probably cutting both of those. Incidental life gain doesn't matter too much. Since I am bringing in 1 land, I could consider cutting 1 land, but I don't think I'm going to do that. This hand is a little weird. It has the Bojuka Bog in hand innately, which means that I can't just do it at instant speed. And I don't know that my opponent is going to do, like, past the turn lines here, because they can just entomb at my end step and completely dodge Bojuka Bog. I would say I am not fully happy with this hand, but I think I keep still. Mox Diamond's really good. Alright, so this is kind of what I'm afraid of, is like the pass the turn and the Bojuka Bog doesn't really matter line. That's an Endurance. That's very strong here for me. So let's play a land, play a Mox Diamond, discard probably the Taiga, and call it a turn. I can pitch cast this Endurance if I have to do some instant speed shenanigans, which it looks like I might. Alright, are we in Tumen? Oh, that's so much that's so much better for me. Ooh, there's an Urborg. So that's actually nice for me, because I can play Dark Depths and cast Knight of the Reliquary if I draw another green card. And that was a very fast shuffle. Seems like we're chilling. I'm considering fetching a Dryad Arbor right here. I'm not really expecting my opponent to be on much removal. And this kind of helps me versus an Archon of Cruelty that manages to slip into play later. I think I'm good with that. A Deafening Silence. I like that a lot. A lot. So let's play a Dark Depths. Drop a Deafening Silence into play, which makes the rituals worse. And I'll be holding up Pitchcast Endurance. And technically, every point of life matters versus some sort of reanimation effect. Alright, there is the Entomb. With a Deafening Silence in play, I should be able to just cast Endurance in response to my opponent playing, oh wow, Castle Locked Wayne. It's unexpected, but cool. Yeah, so now I will pitch cast this Endurance, and it's effectively uncounterable. Goodbye. And that effectively served as a counterspell, which is great for me. Another Mox Diamond. In these colors, I'm not about to get hit by a Serenity. It's probably okay to pitch a land to a Mox here. Although if my opponent like has a Splash Serenity, it is a disaster for me. I think I'm just going to play out a regular land here. Like, I might just be playing too conservatively in not playing out this Mox Diamond, because it does make my mana better for the future. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to put anything in here. Actually, maybe the extra land drop matters a lot. Maybe the extra land drop matters a lot. Like, if that was an Archon of Cruelty and I lost the Dryad Arbor, it would super matter that I have an untapped land in some instances. We will do a play that probably doesn't matter here, but we can take an ice counter off of Dark Depths for the future. I really don't like my position here. I kind of expect that I'm dead. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. So life would have been a little awkward if I had to choose between the Bojuka Bog and the Thespian stage here. I have to do something a little weird here. I have to let my opponent hit me with this Grizzlebrand, I think, so that my creature doesn't get exiled by Ashen Rider. Is a little strange. And I'll let my opponent put the Ashen Rider in play, and I'll have a decent number of top decks. Tutor for a Sajiri Step to... Oh, do you have a bounce spell? I mean, I think I've got to just go for it here, but this is weird. So, do the Marit Lage Song and Dance. Can't play it this turn. They have to play it on my upkeep if they have it. If they do have it. Well, that's a really good draw. So this solves the short-term problem of the Grizzlebrand, but doesn't really solve the fact that my opponent can just draw 7 and then probably put an Ashen Rider into play, remove my Deafening Silence, and be pretty far ahead. So once we go to combat, send you home. Another basic land drop. My opponent's honestly not that far away from just hard casting a Grizzlebrand. Yeah. I have Source of Plowshares that I can top deck to answer this thing. That is a Green Sun. What does Green Sun get me here? Probably Knight of the Reliquary. I can use that to get, like, Phase of Ith and be defensive from there. Could be just facing down a counterspell here, but gotta do what I gotta do. I haven't seen counter spells yet. I've got a Knight. My Knight's a 6/6. My opponent is at 6. That's very convenient for me. There also could be some removal here. I wasn't expecting any in game 1 in post-sideboard games that could have, you know, a Fatal Push or equivalent. That's Castle Locthwain in multiples. Okay. I don't lose to this. I can beat this. It's not fun, but I can do it. There's a Plains. So my plan for this now becomes Glacial Chasm until I can remove Sarah's Emissary. So I'll make my land drop and pass the turn here. Is this... Oh, okay. That's scary. My opponent is going to 2 by activating that. I think I'm supposed to rotate away the Dryad Arbor so that it doesn't randomly eat it to, like, Collective Brutality. I think you're supposed to leave one of those back, yeah. Let's float a mana with Dryad Arbor, sacrifice Dryad Arbor. This turn I could technically get Maze of Ith and not have to start paying life, and I can get Glacial Chasm next turn, sacrificing my Maze of Ith when it enters play. I don't mind that. Alright, get out of combat. Flagstones is great. I'll be playing that and passing the turn. Activate your Castle Locthwain. No? Okay, fine. Oh, actually, this isn't innately a Plains, right? It just searches for a Plains, so I can't actually get rid of that with Knight. Alright. Let's float a mana. Let's sacrifice the basic Plains here. The Glacial Chasm. Now that this is in play, I can sacrifice my Flagstones. I think I'll just pick up a Savannah. I already have the red with Mox Diamond that I need. So we're temporarily protected. We get to prevent all damage that would be dealt to me. But this only works for a few turns. If I have to, I can do some Thespian stage nonsense. That's Flagstones and pass. I can use the Knight to thin the deck, or I can use it to start tutoring up pieces of my combo. I mean, I've got the Glacial Chasm in play, so that doesn't do you any good. And end of turn, do Knight of the Reliquary stuff. Up a Thespian stage. And for now, since an Urborg is in play, I think I'll just copy a Maze of Ith. Still taps for mana. This now costs me 4 life, so I don't get to do that again. Oh, there's a Source of Plowshares. I guess we do the Are You Dead test. I could try to wait until my opponent casts a spell, but they just, like, don't have to cast any spells right now. Alright. Oh, right, I can't attack while I control Glacial Chasm. That was actively bad on my end. I 100% should have waited until my opponent's end step, because that gave them an opportunity to draw extra cards with Castle Locthwain. I'm not happy with how I've played this one. Hardcast Grizzledad. Hardcast Grizzledad. I don't think that actually matters. Go ahead and sacrifice a Savannah. Caracas is gone. Caracas is gone. So I get a Dark Depths. I get a Dark Depths. I have 2 lethal-sized threats, but the Grizzlebrand is still in the way. I think I'm actually just going to pick up a Yavimaya here. Then I can have better mana to actually cast my spells. I can safely let Glacial Chasm go if I would like. I can also just rotate it away now. I think I'm going to do. Goodbye, Glacial Chasm. Hello, Dark Depths. That is a green sun. I can get another knight. I can get a Titania. It's probably just Ramunap Excavator, actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I did tap that right the first time. So there's a green sun for X equals 3. Pick up Ramunap. I now can just kind of do this. Like float a mana, play Glacial Chasm, sacrifice a Flagstones, get the plateau that is remaining in my deck, and go 1. No, I don't have to tap that. Just 2 mana plus this. Target Dark Depths. Keep the one with no ice counters. Have a Marit Lage in play. So I have 2 threats covered. And protection from creatures via Glacial Chasm. I've played this one pretty sloppily. But I think I got there. Actually, I guess a hardcast Archon of Cruelty is something that beats me. Or just Collective Brutality in my face. Because this prevents damage. Maybe I should have been playing more aggressively to try to actually kill my opponent. Right, that's a shuffle. We made it through this turn. I can now let Glacial Chasm go. Okay, no creatures in there. I believe I'm just tutoring and going for the kill here. Let's go ahead and sacrifice this. And choose black here. There's another Echoing Truth, unfortunately. Oh, that's a fetch land. It doesn't do me a lot of good. I'm going to play lands from my graveyard here. I'm going to slowly lose lands. The Glacial Chasm. I think that just occurs. I will sacrifice the Bojuka Bog so I can replay that if I need to. Upkeep Brainstorm? Do you want to fetch immediately? You know the top card? You didn't cast a cantrip or anything. They don't want to draw that island. Alright, we're chilling. This has turned into a slog. Let's go ahead and re-sacrifice the Glacial Chasm. I will get the other May. I thought I had 2 Maze of Ith. Am I crazy? No, I copied it before. I mean, I guess this works too, right? Get this. Target this with Pro Black. That's still a lethal threat. Because my opponent is at 1. Alright, let's see if my opponent's dead. That should mean they're dead, I believe. Unless they have, like, Otawara very specifically, because they've cast their spell for Deafening Silence here. Okay, that was a slog. I made a lot of micro errors that ended up mattering. Like, I still got there in the end, but I'm very unhappy with how I played this one. Welcome to the first match of the day. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. Moxfield is a deck building website for Magic the Gathering, and it also serves as a database for all sorts of cool decks. So whether you are concerned with your own decks, or maybe decks for a specific format, you want to take a look at what people are messing around with for new cards, or maybe you want to specifically follow some people, like say some content creators, and see what they're up to, there's a ton to explore here, so consider checking it out. I'm on the draw here, and again I'm in this awkward situation where I have a spectacular Wasteland hand, but if my opponent just plays an initiative creature on turn 1, I'm so fucked. Or if my opponent just goes basic land pass, my hand is unplayable. So I think not knowing the matchup, I just take a mulligan here. This is a very, very good Elvish Reclaimer hand. I will keep this throwing back 1. Crop rotation. An initial Wasteland on my Taiga would be pretty bad for me. Alright, we are probably playing against Blue-Red Delver. Or Underground Sea. I missed the memo that today was Underground Sea Day. My opponent has taken crop rotation. Are we playing against blue-black Reanimator again? 'Cause that's kind of what it feels like. Oh shit, it is a daze. Could still be Doomsday. But, I don't know. Maybe a Reanimator list did well over the weekend and I missed it. That is no shuffle and missing a land drop there. Let's play a land. Maybe I actually don't want to play around days. If I put this into play... No, I do. The land drop's a little awkward here. If I don't play this turn, I can't play Knight of the Reliquary next turn, but I would really like to just hold up Elvish Reclaimer from here until I get confirmation for whether my opponent is playing Doomsday or Reanimator. Yeah, Shadow this time. Okay. Snuff Out is really good in Legacy right now. Has like a very good tempo play against the initiative decks. Just remove the initiative creature for free. And then hit in with whatever card you have. Take it and try to hold it. Alright, that is a Murktide Regent. I can get Maze of Ith to deal with that. There's sort of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation at work here, though. If I Sorcery Speed tutor for Maze of Ith, I can get Wastelanded, and if I do it during combat, I could get Stifled. I think I sort of just accept that. I also could just start immediately playing towards Thespian stage and just take the hit for 6. I can make that decision next turn, though. Hey, there's that Wasteland. Him is fine. Care about my onboard stuff significantly more than I do anything else. So with Wasteland now on board, I believe I just want to get a Maze of Ith here and try to get my opponent to Wasteland that so that I can actually assemble a Dark Depths slightly later. Already Wastelandable, so let's just pick up a new color. Pick up this Maze. Try to get my opponent to answer that with their Wasteland next turn. That's a little awkward. That's fine. Pick up Pro Black. I intend on activating this again. There is a Snuff Out. Kind of means that I have to make some choices now, huh? Let's get rid of this land and do some tutoring. It's probably still just a stage. Elvish Reclaimer can die. And we'll see if my opponent can present another threat. If they don't present another threat, my current Maze of Ith does a really good job of holding the floor. They have another threat. They can probably just Wasteland my Thespian stage and be in a pretty good position. But it looks like I'm safe in the short term. It's when like a Death Shadow or something starts to come down that things get spooky. Okay, they are taking out my Dark Depths immediately. Woohoo! So I can Wasteland my opponent's open source of mana, use Thespian stage right now to copy this Maze of Ith so that a follow-up Wasteland can't keep me from doing this, and I can sit defensively behind 2 Maze of Iths until I can do something meaningful. Yeah, I mean, attack away. That's not going anywhere. Alright. Land pass. I'm probably not going to be interested in endurancing my opponent's graveyard, because doing that would grow this Murktide Regent, and even though it's in check right now, that doesn't mean that it's going to stay in check. Yeah, you may absolutely attack. I could wait to play this around a daze. I don't think there is a strong reason to. I would love to trade this card 1-for-1 with something from my opponent. Wow. This endurance wasn't really doing anything. But cool. Like, resolving a knight is insane in comparison to, like, an endurance, which was a do-nothing card. That feels like a punt from my opponent. Like, I don't know if they're about to play another Murktide Regent, and, like, it just makes sense for them to do that, or what. Reanimate a Remunap, sure. So they can... Oh, okay. So I don't think I would have enduranced myself there. Like, the lands in the graveyard are pretty valuable. Yep, so my opponent understandably holds back their creatures. Green Sun's not a bad draw. Really just like to turn that into another knight. Turning it into a reclaimer is not bad. This is a lethal threat, so my opponent has to block it with one of their things. If I get Sylvan's Safekeeper, I can just kind of protect this knight and change combat math. I think I like doing that. Alright, so there's Sylvan Safekeeper. I can go ahead and attack with a knight. I will go ahead and sacrifice a Taiga here. Now I beat Murktide Regent in combat. And I've got 2 Maze of Ith protecting my creatures. Small misplay on my end. I should have untapped Knight at end of combat there. Yeah, I don't have the mana up to activate that. So I will go ahead and just give the Knight Shroud here. I'll give the Safekeeper Shroud. Ramunap Excavator is going to be forced to block in this turn cycle. Or not anymore, I guess. Remove that and crash in for lethal with Knight. We've gotten the GGs. Although I guess that was just game 1. Alright, what do we have for this deck? Seasoned Dungeoneer seems kind of gross. Like, it's bad against Daze, but as far as, like, forcing through blockers, that seems good. I think I like the mid-rangey stuff like this here. Red Elemental Blast and Endurance are reasonable ways to fight against Murktide Regent, and Glacial Chasm seems playable as well. I like crop rotation a lot less versus blue decks with a lot of counter spells. Generally speaking, that tends to be a cut for me. How do we feel about Titania, Voice of Gaia here? 3-4 with reach is medium. I think I want to, like, I think since I want to bring in 5 cards, this probably isn't the matchup for this. Like, the incidental life gain is kind of cool, but my opponent is often going to be hitting me in chunks of 5 damage or more. I don't know how sold I am on those. Alright, if I bring in these 5 cards... Oh, wow, I threw in a couple already. Yeah, these are definitely coming out then. Alright, these are coming out. Crop rotations are coming out. I think despite the fact that Sylvan Safekeeper was very important to me winning that match, I don't think most of the time I'm going to want to do that. The only reason I really wanted the Safekeeper is because things got weird and my opponent reanimated one of my cards. So I think that's going to go. Let's sort this by mana value now. This is the point where I'm a little unsure, because like Prismatic Ending is a great answer to Death Shadow and a poor answer to Murktide Regent, but Red Elemental Blast is the opposite way, where it answers Murktide, but not Death Shadow. Prismatic Ending is a nice additional catch-all for some things. Not sure that I want to board out any lands. I want to be hitting land drops very consistently because of this endgame. I don't know, maybe Prismatic Ending is the weak link. Maybe I can board out 1 Dark Depths. I'm not really planning on winning via Marit Lage. Board out 1 Dark Depths, 1 Prismatic Ending or something like that. I'm really not expecting to have to deal 20 points of damage to my opponent. I'm expecting to have to deal 10. When that's the case, I think like relying on the Dark Depths combo is less necessary. I of course have the one of Dark Depths in my hand. Do I have a basic forest? I do have a basic forest if I want to play that. I don't think I do, since I want to be able to cast Red Elemental Blast. So let's just play Elvish Reclaimer here. If it gets dazed or snuffed out or whatever, it's not that big of a deal. I'll just play Taiga and then do another one. Wraith is fine. No immediate snuff out, but that doesn't mean anything necessarily. Baleful Strix. Okay, that's fine. My opponent took 2 off Watery Grave, by the way. I just sneezed, so future me will edit that out. Maze of Ith is cool. I think I'm just going to start grinding with my lands rather than like remove this and get aggro. So let's just go ahead and pass the turn. I'm just not in a position where I need to be in a rush. If I decide that's different, you know, I can just go for making a Marit Lage almost immediately. I can just get Thespian Stage off of Elvish Reclaimer this turn. I'm not really sure that I want to just like lose that hard to a bounce spell, or an onboard wasteland for that matter, I guess. I'm still going to go ahead and just turn 1 land into 2 lands here. I'll go ahead and pick up that plateau here. And I'm not sure what land exactly I want to be getting here. Getting the stage and threatening the combo kill is probably reasonable. That probably keeps me from getting wastelanded in the short term. One land in graveyard. I think I'm just going to make a natural land drop here and cast Endurance. I might just cast Endurance now. I can cast it in my opponent's upkeep. If I do that, though, I don't really want to activate Elvish Reclaimer. Let's just pass with all my mana available. And I'm playing Endurance around days while also holding up Red Elemental Blast. My opponent does something like play a fetch land or cycle Street Wraith. I might just fire off Endurance so that they can't Murktide Regent immediately. Although that would be a really bad Murktide Regent. You could have a Murktide Regent that bad. Counter it? I think I'll counter that. Another Wasteland, okay. Let's do some fetching. Grabbing a Taiga. And I think I'm just going to cast this. Casting it into Daze, which is maybe not the best, but again, I think I'm happy trading 1-for-1 right now with this stuff. That can go back in the deck. Now we can start playing this whole Stage Dark Depths subgame. I'm going to attack with both of these and just trade one of them for Strix, resolve this, and be on a relatively strong board. Maybe I just trade Endurance, actually, and just dampen the power of my opponent's Wasteland. Alright, we trade these. And post-combat, I'll pick up an Elvish Reclaimer. I think it's worth playing out this Mox Diamond. This land isn't particularly strong with the Baleful Strix off the board. Let's just go ahead and get rid of that. Play out a Dark Depths. And now I've got a pair of 3/4s that I can attack my opponent with while I'm taxing these Wastelands. Reanimate and Endurance. I can Bojuka Bog myself to stop that. I think I will do that. Reclaimer. We get rid of the plateau here. Bog myself. I can rebuild the size of these Reclaimers pretty quickly. Okay. We're going for more. Down to 10. There is a Death Shadow. Currently a 3/3. Do I want potentially get wastelanded twice? Yeah, I don't think I care if I get wastelanded. Oh wait, this one's summoning sick. JK. Yep, I'll play a Maze of Ith, pass the turn, and work on making life very difficult for my opponent. I want to rotate away my Bojuka Bog in this turn cycle. So let's start there. Rotate away Bog. Probably pick up a Yavimaya. Or I can just pick up a Wasteland and start going after my opponent's Wastelands. That probably just wins too. Fine, activate. Yeah, okay. I think this is one of those times where I have about 70 different roads to victory, and without the reps, I just don't know which one is like the most efficient. GG's. Alright, round 3, we're 2-0. I've kept my opening hand here. I've got a pretty good mix of lands and spells, and a fantastic initial Swords to Plowshares target as well. I do want to play Mox Diamond this turn. I don't think I'm interested in wastelanding my opponent with 3 different 3-drops in my hand here. So despite the fact that Swords to Plowshares this, Wasteland this is an incredible short-term play, I just don't really like wastelanding Delver all that much anymore. I just feel like it ends up leaving me in sort of an awkward spot. So I'm going to try to take out this creature and throw 3-drops at my opponent until they die. I'm not sure which one of these is supposed to be a bait spell, because like a 3/4 reach is like very real in this matchup. I also might be getting a basic with this Windswept Heath so that I'm functionally immune to Wasteland. Okay. No immediate follow-up creature, which is great for me. A Mox Diamond? There's not going to be any Meltdown game 1. You could get it Brazen Borrowed, which would be awkward, but I guess there's already one of those in play for that. I kind of want more lands in play, though, physically, because of Naya the Reliquary. So I'm going to go ahead and fetch here. I think I will pick up the basic forest right now. And with 2 lands in graveyard, this is currently immune to a lightning bolt, so let's offer this up as force or daze fodder. Okay, there is the daze. That is a-okay with me. Would love to just draw another land. Preferably one that taps for mana, though. Elvish Reclaimer. I can play that around a daze. Super inefficient use of my mana, though. I think this is Titania. See what my opponent has to say about that. I just don't think I want to tie up my mana 2 turns in a row with Elvish Reclaimer right now, which is probably what I would do if I did play Reclaimer. And I'd prefer to play Reclaimer once there are 3 land cards in my graveyard, because that's the point where that is out of bolt range. Alright, we're in play. Could get, like, double bolted. My opponent has been doing a lot of nothing. So, like, double bolt or, like, Brazen Borrower bounce wouldn't really surprise me. Oh, straight up bolt my face. So, opponent could have a Murktide Regent that they are looking to put into play here. As long as my Knight of the Reliquary or Elvish Reclaimer resolves, that's not really a problem, though. Oh, it's super not a problem. I guess I will lead on Swords here. That way the Swords is played around Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce is uncommon right now, but might as well attempt to play around it. Nice. Are you Vigilant? No, you have Reach. You only have Vigilance once you've transformed, so to speak. Crash in for 3. Put a dent in that life pool that I just gave my opponent for their Murktide. And I don't love that I'm playing this into a Lightning Bolt, but my opponent just threw one at my face willy-nilly. Like, they could have another, but as soon as it makes it back to my turn, this is immune to Bolt. Play that and rotate in this turn cycle. That's very good. Continue to hit in for 3 with Titania. Very nice. Play a new Elvish Reclaimer. Pass the turn, and things are about to get sweet. Kind of wonder what exactly my opponent has in hand. Like, have they just flooded out so hard? Like, they're not cantripping. They're not, like, playing their spells. They could have another Murktide. We sacrifice Flagstones, which gives me 2 triggers. Titania gains me some life there. We'll use this ability to pick up a basic Plains. And then the actual Elvish Reclaimer ability will happen. How many lands are in my graveyard? 1, 2, 3. 3 are in my graveyard. Just pick up a Maze of Ith. It's a pretty annoying card here, because it just, like, lets me attack for 9 and then untap one of my creatures. Send them. Alright, so there's my damage. I'll now untap an Elvish Reclaimer so that I can activate its ability. Yeah, should have done that a little bit earlier. It's all fine with me. Do I want to be able to rotate again? I do. I honestly do. We're just going to play out this land. Give pro red, pass the turn, and I can pick up my fun Titania land at end of turn. Is that... Oh! I was gonna do the thing. Alright, what do we have for Delver? Definitely Endurance, definitely Red Elemental Blast. Glacial Chasm is a little less reliable here due to Wasteland, but I still probably want access to it. And yeah, it's not crazy to play some of this stuff, but I probably don't need or want it. I think kind of like before, against these blue decks, I want to be boarding out Crop Rotation. That gives me the 3 Red Elemental Blasts as a starting point. I think I want to keep Prismatic Ending this time around because I have Delvers and Dragon Rage Channelers and potentially some other tech like Third Path Iconoclast or, you know, something like that. Ledger Shredder that I might have to answer as well. I probably don't need Sylvan's Safekeeper. A lot of my stuff is going to be immune to Lightning Bolt after the first few turns of the game anyway. That gets me Endurance, and then I just have to figure out what I'm cutting for Glacial Chasm. Legitimately don't know. At this point, I feel like most of the lands are good. I could cut a Wasteland. Like, I don't want to be Wastelanding my opponent anyway. That would be cutting... That would be, like, boarding in a non-land or a land. A matchup where Daze is a thing, though. I don't know that I like that. I think I'm treating Glacial Chasm like a spell. I could reasonably board out Minsc and Boo on the draw. That seems fine. Oh, man. This doesn't feel capable to me. I I think the easiest way that I lose to Delver is just fumbling over my own mana, and I think that hand does that. This is awkward if this gets wastelanded. Otherwise, it's pretty reasonable. I think I keep this. I think I pitch one wasteland again. I don't really want to be on the Wasteland Delver into Oblivion plan. I want to have a lot of mana to play around these things. It may even be worth throwing a Knight of the Reliquary back to just keep extra lands in case I do get wastelanded, so that I can still play Ramunap. But Ramunap dies to Bolt. Throw back one wasteland. It might just be correct to throw back Ramunap since I'm not presenting other Bolt targets in the early game. And again, because of like the existence of EI and how easy it is for my opponent to get card advantage as these games go long, I'm not really planning on trying to get a free one by wastelanding my opponent here. I wonder if I can get a Daze for free. Did not succeed. Alright. Wasteland can go bye-bye. Go ahead and play this tapped land. Call it a turn. I don't think all Swords to Plowshares, like a Dragon Rage Channeler, that's played out without playing around like Daze and Spell Pierce. Yes, that is fine. Like the time where like having the extra Wasteland in hand instead of the Ramunap Excavator would be nice. There's an Endurance, not particularly strong right now. Let's see if we can take this out. This is a great Force of Will. Nope. Okay. Let's hit a land. Let's hit a land. Any land. It's a land. I think I will be doing end of my opponent's turn Endurance. That just doesn't, like, that allows them to not just, like, hardcast a Daze to get me in this turn cycle. Expressive Iteration is strong. And, like, this right here is exactly why I was not aggressive with Wastelands. Because if I try to 1-for-1 my opponent with Wastelands and then they play an EI, that kind of like blows the equilibrium out of whack and like tilts the scales very heavily in their favor. A Dragon Rage Channeler. I believe with that on the stack, I'm supposed to cast this Endurance so that if they counter it, they don't get additional value from the Surveil trigger. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So Endurance gets countered. And now I can play one of Ramunap or Knight. I kind of want to play Ramunap, use it to make another land drop, and then play Knight with Red Elemental Blast backup. The awkward thing here is that if I make a land drop with Ramunap Excavator, it puts me to 3 lands in graveyard, meaning that Knight dies to Bolt, so it's a really weird decision. Knight getting dazed here would be pretty backbreaking, though. I'm going to go ahead and take the Ramunap play. I probably play the Wasteland from graveyard. That way I can reconvert it into a land in graveyard if I need to. It's a little awkward if I need 5 mana next turn. I think I just kind of live with it. Alright, opponent gets to Brainstorm and dig a little bit deeper with Dragon Rage Channeler. We could be looking at a Murktide Regent in the next turn cycle. Okay, there it is, and I can hopefully Pyroblast it into Oblivion. Prismatic Ending is my draw, and my opponent is submerging my Dragon Rage Channeler. I will totally just accept that. That's not worth countering. Like, I have much more important targets on table here. So let's attempt to clear out my opponent's stuff. So we'll Prismatic Ending the Dragon Rage Channeler, and then attempt a Red Elemental Blast and see if Murktide dies. This will be a very good Force of Will if my opponent has one, but they do not. And again, I don't want to be wastelanding my opponent, I just want to be playing my big dumb cards around Daze. So next turn I can play Ramunap around Daze and double wasteland my opponent if that's a thing that I would like to do. But again, every EI just really undoes wasteland. I in fact think I'm more likely to just play Knight of the Reliquary and then just hold up the wasteland so that Bolt can't kill it. Brainstorm in exile from EI. And we're chilling. So the awkward thing is that if my opponent has Daze plus Lightning Bolt, they can Daze Knight of the Reliquary and then Lightning Bolt it. I don't know if I'm supposed to play around that. Let's jam Knight. Okay, it's in play. I am not going to wasteland immediately. I would like to hold this in play if possible, because then I can play Ramming Up Excavator around days and just have much better Knight of the Reliquary based lines after that. I don't want to get short-sighted here. All right, there is a Wasteland with Delirium. That is 6 damage. So even if I wasteland one of my own lands, I can't play around that. C'est la vie. My opponent can wasteland my Yavimaya to slow me down considerably here. Yep, and they do. This is really awkward. Doing nothing with this mana is really bad. Playing Ramanap Excavator into days is also kind of bad. I think I just have to do it, though. Not how I wanted to play out this card. The Wasteland plus Unholy Heat was a very awkward combination for me. I'm very happy trading for Force of Will there, though. Unfortunately, like, my opponent has this window where I've got nothing on board and effectively no cards in hand to just cantrip into a Murktide Regent and then kill me in 3 turns. That's their 3rd EI, right? Ugh. Oh, so now they get to Ponder as well. They're fetching first. They're going to put the EI back on top so they can ponder into it and then play it next turn. And obviously no shuffle. The Dragon Rage Channeler to boot there is disgusting. Be a great time to draw Endurance. My opponent's randomly pausing in my draw step. I wonder if I am about to get surgicaled. On Swords to Plowshares, sure. Kind of a bad play though, right? Like, in terms of timing. Because, like, if they do it on my draw step and I actually draw it, I get to fire that off on the Dragon Rage Channeler. Whereas if they do that on their turn, I don't. Wasteland's very bad for me. I'm just trying to get into this position where I get to play my stuff around days. I've been trying to hold that all game, but I've been having trouble doing that. That is a lot of surgical extraction. Again, if I have an Endurance, I cast it in response. I nuke the graveyard and your creature is dead. I am not able to punish these misplays from my opponent with their surgical extraction, but it feels like these are pretty clearly mistakes. I don't think I play that out yet, because it just locks me off of playing spells, and I think a lot of times that ends up being fuel for Mox Diamond to just play a card around a daze, which is what I care about very deeply right now. I will eat the 3 damage. I go to 14. With the second Dragon Rage Channeler in play, I might be forced to play this. I make some bears. I'm going to play this tapped and start going down the Glacial. I'm not going to go down the Glacial Chasm route. Sorry, I was thinking about Mox Diamonding that card. That was a very tragic error. That Lightning Bolt would have not done me damage either. Yeah, I think that whoopsie there just cost me this game. Well, not cost me this game, like, I think my opponent's winning it most of the time anyway. But it was pretty bad. Guess I'll go ahead and fetch with this. Pick up like a Savannah. Start making bears immediately if I junk this land. Guess I will do that. Discard. Make a bear. Glacial Chasm. Sacrifice the Wasteland. My opponent has used 2 Wastelands already. Those have to attack. I'm safe for now, but my misplay was very costly here. I draw like a Thespian stage. Don't think that gets me to where I need to be. Keeps one of those from hitting me, though. Okay. I could be at 9 higher life right now if I had just not had that brain fart and... yeah. Okay. So this attack does nothing. I have to sacrifice this Glacial Chasm here, though. And that is a dead draw. I will concede there. I think I lost that one to myself, though. Let's take a look at the top couple cards. This portion right here probably causes me to sacrifice. Like, that would have been, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 turns? 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah. The maze would have helped, but I don't know. I think my opponent still gets there. So when I am on the play, do I want like Minsc and Boo as an additional threat to close the game? I think the answer is no. I'm pretty happy overall with the tools that I have in my toolbox for this matchup. Okay, this is a reasonable hand. I think I'm going to keep it. I think I'm just going to lead on Yavimaya and Dryad Arbor in an attempt to just get ahead on mana rather than leading on Elvish Reclaimer. Elvish Reclaimer is so much better once it is already a 3-4. So let's get a happy little tree friend. And I expect it to die to Lightning Bolt, like, to be clear. Oh, no, it is a Delver instead. I'll probably go for a mid-combat Endurance here. Like, it's pretty clearly telegraphed, in my opinion, since I'm, like, not attacking with the Dryad Arbor, but I don't mind feeding Endurance to Daze, because, like, it's so good if it actually does work. Ooh. No Delver flip. And, yeah, anyway, then I can go Knight and Elvish Reclaimer in my next turn cycle. Sure. Do I want to fetch here? Fetch a basic? I don't think so. Right, Endurance does resolve. Little misplay on my end. I should have let the Lightning Bolt resolve first. And then I would have nuked one more card from graveyard. Alright, I have an Endurance in play. Do I want to cast a Knight this turn? I think so. Let's do some fetching. This is 2 lands in graveyard, so this already lives. I think at this point I will not fetch a second time. Alright. And I think I'm just going to hold back with my Endurance. I don't really want to attack it into Delver and then, like, trade with Lightning Bolt. There is a Ponder. I also could have played out Thespian stage that turn. And probably should have, because if my opponent doesn't have a Wasteland, I can just be threatening Marit Lage immediately. I don't think this game is about threatening Marit Lage. I think I just cast the cards in my hand and my opponent dies somehow. Miss this zone. So there's no shuffle there. I guess also since my opponent is playing multiple Surgical Extractions, I could have just fetched with Windswept Heath to play around Surgical Extraction on, like, Windswept Heath into Lightning Bolt on Knight of the Reliquary. But that seems kind of sus. Alright, Delver has not attacked. Ball's in my court. I've got Submerge to think about. Let's start by casting some cards. Let's go like green, white, 1, play a Knight, then play. I don't know that I need to play this right now. I think the board is strong enough in my favor that I'm okay with an Endurance attack. I don't know that I want to attack with the other Knight yet. Seems like holding it up is just so safe as of right now. Alright, my opponent is eating 3 damage. I don't think I'm going to cast this right now. I think I'm just going to pass the turn. A little leery of Submerge. That said, since I'm so close to just assembling Dark Depths combo, I think I'm just good with that. I don't know, I can play around Submerge by just not tapping this Knight and just, like, fetch with Windswept Heath to grow both my Knights. Then if my opponent submerges, I just fetch up one of the 2 Sajiri steps. No shuffle. Okay, that makes me less inclined to mess around with trying to get the Dark Depths combo going. Take that hit. I think I just take that hit. I don't think I need to get a Maze of Ith right now. Got a 16. I will go ahead and fetch end of turn. Fully an attempt at baiting like a Marit Lage here. Or not a Marit Lage, Submerge. Give priority back to my opponent. They did not fall for it. I will go ahead and fetch again. Guess I could respect price of progress. Get like a plains here. 6, 12, 13, 14, 15 showing damage. Again, though, I don't think I go for all of that. I think I just 2-turn my opponent here. And attempt 9 damage. Sure. Guess I don't want to sack this if I'm just trying to play around price of progress. This is like my worst land in terms of onboard mana. Like, I need this, I need this, I need this. I kind of want this. I am going to go ahead and sacrifice that. Let's sacrifice this. And we'll go for our protection here. Choose blue, which sends that to the graveyard. My opponent goes to 6. I will play out an Elvish Reclaimer, which is yet another 3-4. So I will Thespian stage. So I can Thespian stage target island to counter this wasteland, but then my Elvish Reclaimer can get dazed. I don't think it matters if my Elvish Reclaimer gets dazed, honestly. I'm gonna save my land. Alright, I have countered wasteland. We'll call it a turn. Any two of these creatures connecting is lethal, and one knight connecting is lethal. So I think I'm good. My opponent can't cast a Price of Progress without dying themselves. Yeah, that's fine. Another Thespian stage. This is just attack all, right? Like my opponent would need to chump block both knights and have 2 removal spells. Send them. You may Surgical Extraction, Windswept Heath. Absolutely. That makes these 5/5s. This is still 3 different lethal creatures. The Elvish Reclaimer is no longer a lethal threat. Uh-huh. Still lethal. Opponent says fetch was a misclick, GG. Okay. I don't want to, like, crap on my opponent here, but, like, I think the misplay is boarding in Surgical Extraction in the matchup. Right? Like, this is a fair matchup where I don't really need any one specific card from my graveyard. Like, it's not like you're taking out a Life from the Loam or something that is just going to absolutely cripple my resources. Like, you surgical to fetch land in this game to drink my creatures, which wasn't actually worth a full card here. And in the previous game, you surgicaled Endurance and Swords to Plowshares, which are fantastic cards in the matchup, but, like, drawing Knight of the Reliquary and Friends is still, like, any other card that I draw is still just good. So I think the misplay is not the fetch land there. I think the misplay is probably boarding in Surgical. Like, I'm not a Delver expert or anything, but it does not feel to me like those Surgicals were worth cards. Alright, this is round 4. We're 3-0. This is an okay hand that's not overly exciting. I think my opponent played Delver the last time I played against them, but it's been a hot minute, so I don't remember for sure. I think I'm comfortable keeping this hand on the draw where I get, you know, another card for my first turn, like, give me more options, and by the second turn, like, I will probably have drawn another spell of some kind that I can play. Alright, are we Delver? Are we 8-cast? They're targeting me with this. And it looks like we are playing against Delver yet again, which is probably a good thing. Preordain, though. My internal scale has tilted towards this likely being a combo variant of some kind. Preordain is weird there. In one way or another, I am probably playing double Elvish Reclaimer on turn 1. Lead on Mox Diamond and see where that goes. I think Dryad Arbor is too slow for this hand, kind of regardless of what we're playing against. I'm going to start on a dazable Elvish Reclaimer. Did not get dazed. I think I'm interested in just fetching here. Probably picking up a Savannah. I've got 2 lands in graveyard for Elvish Reclaimer, so I can rotate with one of these next turn and then attack for 3. Bojuka Bog being in my hand may be relevant. Bottom with that. I would really like some extra information about what my opponent is doing here. Like, is this show and tell with baubles? Like, what are we okay. No, it is a Dragon Rage Channeler deck with Preordains. I don't think I want to play Knight this turn. I think I want to bog my opponent. I don't think I want to wasteland my opponent. Preordains are weird. Okay. Let's bog my opponent. Nuke their graveyard. Activate Elvish Reclaimer. Sacrifice a Bojuka Bog. I think I just want to pick up a Dark Depths here. I'll work on threatening that combo, while also just having 6 beatdown damage in play. I think that's fine. Looks like Delver. Misty in Exile. 3rd bauble of the game. Show me something interesting over there. Okay. Their attack now is obligatory. Okay, there is another color here. So, probably looking at Swords to Plowshares, maybe Stoneforge Mystic. Makes the whole Thespian Stage Dark Depths thing significantly less attractive. I probably still go for it. Much safer if I wait one more turn with Knight. Much safer if I wait one turn. Unfortunately, it does mean this Knight is dazable. No daze, but a force of will. I get to bash in for 6 here. Opponent is at 7. Means fetch lands are off the table unless my opponent can gum up the board in some way. Dragon Rage Channeler has to attack at least as of right now. Swords in exile. I can take out one Elvish Reclaimer, so my opponent's not facing down lethal next turn. And Wasteland is quite strong here. Sure. I will take 3. Oh, another Elvish Reclaimer is great. I have 2 Dark Depths, so I can play this and tutor up another one in this turn cycle. Or I can just attack my opponent twice. I can attack my opponent twice, and then if they play something like a Murktide Regent, then I can start tutoring for Maze of Ith or whatever and be defensive. Opponent looks at so many cards here. Down to 4, play Reclaimer, it's resolved. I will go ahead and put a stage into play. Dig in deeper. One in the graveyard, another Dragon Rage Channeler, sure. It seems like my opponent has just played Preordain over Ponder here. Alright, another Swords. They topped that one. My opponent's dead as of next turn. We'll go ahead and attack in for 1. And again, I can shift into playing defensively with this Elvish Reclaimer and tutor up a Maze of Ith if I need to. Fetch lands are off for my opponent. They can have swords or a creature that can block. I'm down to 13. Alright, it is Ethereal Forager. Yeah, Ethereal Forager rather than Murktide Regent here. Maybe there are both. That's brutal. I need a relevant top deck here. Prismatic Ending notably does not answer this. So that is really bad for me. I mean, I take out the Dragon Rage Channeler, but then my opponent just gets to Expressive Iteration for multiple turns in a row. That is very annoying. I am down to 13. And my opponent will bury me in cards here. I believe this game is lost 100% now. I just don't think I can recover from this card. Yeah, like this is just a little bit too late here. I guess I'll try to ambush a Delver in combat if my opponent doesn't put Swords to Plowshares back. By not casting this now, though, if they have a Murktide Regent or another Ethereal Forager, it's a disaster. All right, let's see which one they put back. Yeah, they put back a Swords. I mean, I think I'm obligated to cast this card and gain 3 life. Yeah, so I gain 3 life. My opponent sent that Swords to Plowshares back in their deck rather than leaving it in graveyard. That feels like a mistake to me. I don't think it matters. Like, my opponent has 6 flying power on board. Yeah, and now they just get to keep doing this. Sure, Tundra is not that big of a deal. Ugh. Yeah, I just can't think of what draw beats this, like, giant expressive Swords to Plowshares / expressive iteration pile that has happened. Notably, like, a Murktide Regent probably would have beaten me too. But the Forager specifically spiraled this game out of control in a different way. Yeah, and that is too slow. I am dead on board, even with that Maze of Ith there. There were decision points where, like, I could have done some things differently there. I like how I played for the most part, although, like, I didn't learn about the Tundra until a little bit too late. Like, I knew something was off and I couldn't quite identify it. Ethereal Forager was not on, like, the top of my list of things to expect here. And good news, like, I have Endurance and Red Elemental Blasts that can come in for this matchup. Not sure about Glacial Chasm this time around. My opponent has a few more mid-rangey type things that are going to be a problem. I'm, like, given that, I'm probably going to be thinking about some amount of this stuff. Generally speaking, I am less keen on the crop rotation type stuff against these blue decks that have counterspells. I might go down a Dark Depths. I really wish I had a second Maze of Ith in this deck. Sort this by converted mana cost. Do I want to mess around with this? I think so. The 3/4 flyer with reach, which is like very relevant versus my opponent's threat base. Thinking about these. Automatic Ending misses a critical threat from my opponent. Fair enough. Excavator dies to Lightning Bolt. Sylvan Safekeeper is a card that I don't really want to draw, but be very good at protecting knights from like EIs and such. I kind of want some of this stuff, especially when I'm on the play. I want this other Minsc and Boo. Means that I have to cut 2 cards. Thinking it's these 2. I can probably wiggle to other situations where I can be safe. I'm not sure about the Seasoned Dungeoneers. They feel a little bit risky to me. This hand is probably going to be a keep. My first land, I think, has to be a Taiga, so that I can cast this Minsc and Boo later. I don't love that I'm just immediately playing this card out into Lightning Bolt, but I think I'm just going to accept that and move on with my life. And swords, we're getting swords. That's fantastic. I think I want to jam that and get my tapped land out of play. I just really need to play Minsc and Boo on turn 4 if possible. Like, I'm going to need another land to do it. That's not exactly true. I can just turn Dark Depths into a mana-producing land if I need to. My opponent just has so much early interaction here. My creatures just aren't safe. Okay, I am going to get to tap with this Elvish... untap with this Elvish Reclaimer. I might be able to get it out of Lightning Bolt range, depending on what I draw. I think I'll just be holding up Swords to Plowshares mana and then activating Elvish Reclaimer end of turn. Sounds good. Kind of like to do something that baits a removal spell. Or sorry, baits a counter spell before I cast this Minsc and Boo, though. This'll bait a counter spell. Just fine. Let's attempt to swords this. I assume this just gets kept. Okay, I am so wrong here. Let's sacrifice the flagstones. Need to pick up a green mana at some point in this turn cycle. So I think I will go ahead and do that now, picking up a Savannah. And maybe pick up a Thespian stage here. Also not crazy to pick up a Wasteland and try to take my opponent off of white. I think working towards the combo is probably smart. Ooh, another Flagstones. That can probably safely be my land drop for turn. I mean, let's jam. Ooh, like it is not completely safe. Could get pierced. This could just be a brainstorm looking for a counterspell. It is. Oh yeah, it resolved. Yes, I will use that ability. Plus, put the counters on my hamster. Hamster is outside of Lightning Bolt range. I get to crash in for 5. And I'm threatening very large creatures and Dark Depths as well. Game is going much better than the last game, mostly because my opponent just didn't have a counterspell. Alright, Mentor's good here. Yep, alright, I don't have the Swords to Plowshares, like take your value. Bobble's fine. I probably just have to hurl a hamster at the Mentor here. No to that trigger. Knight is a fantastic draw. Let's do this whole sacrifice thing. This is a little awkward. I didn't go for the Dark Depths Minsc kill immediately because I was afraid of something like this. Like, it's okay. I just have to jump through some hoops in the middle here. I guess I could have gone for a Sajiri's Step, actually, rather than the line that I'm about to take. Probably wrong on my end. I want to bog my opponent. Bogging my opponent's probably fine. Then I'll sacrifice this. Junk the Mentor. I don't know that I go for the Dark Depths this turn. I think it's okay to wait 1 turn. Like, I get 1 more protection spell this game, right? Because like one of these is already in play. I think I want it to be protecting a Marit Lage. Okay, yeah, so you're gonna attack 2 of these in here. Then you're gonna play some Brainstorm or whatever mid-combat to kill my Minsc and Boo. Like, that's fine. Oh, a Braid. A Braid specifically is very rough. That was much worse for me than I was expecting, and that's the worst possible timeline for me. Ugh. I can try to manually remove a bunch of ice counters. I don't know. Maybe since I was going to draw 4 cards, if I sacrificed the hamster, I should have just taken that line. I think I messed this one up. Preordain is fine. I'll take 3 going to 21. Let's start removing some ice counters. It is glacially slow, but technically it is a thing that can matter. Like, I can do 3 a turn once I play this. Alright. Yavimaya gives me access to more mana. Play a 3/4 reach creature. Force of Will is unfortunate. I'm mostly hoping to draw, I don't know, a wasteland. Like, wastelanding this wasteland and then getting to produce my Marit Lage probably results in me winning the game most of the time. Right, there's another wasteland. That's tough. I can't do the same sort of force my opponent to drop the shields nonsense that I was aiming for as of a second ago. Like, I could have Thespian staged their wasteland to set up what I wanted. Ugh. Staging wasteland correct? Probably not. Just keep manually ticking this down. 1. Okay, sure. Yeah, like, that's fine. Yep, that's also fine. Okay, this is what I needed. I needed this turn so that my opponent couldn't put the Force of Will into hand. Okay. That sucks. This was a normal game, I would concede right here, but I'm currently undefeated, so I'll see if I can maybe do something about this, but I suspect that I am dead. EI to hand, I take 4, and my opponent just gets to bury me in cards here. I get a Misty off their EI. Night's not bad. No guarantee that it'll resolve. Oh, it did. Outside of range of a Braid. My opponent gets to cast another EI to dig for white removal. 3rd Wasteland. That one doesn't matter so much. That's a prismatic ending. I'm going to take 5 here. My opponent gets EI. I think this is my last turn to draw something relevant. I mean, that definitely counts. My opponent still has another EI. Like, it's still awful for me. Oh, there's more. 6 Sanctuary for EI. Yep. Yeah. This is a very boring play pattern that, like, I've talked about a lot, of like a fair deck getting buried by EI into EI into EI into EI, just like again and again and again and again and again. That said, I am currently of the opinion that no bans are necessary for Legacy at this time. So I cast this, gets the Force of Will from my opponent. Yeah, I think the initiative gave enough of a power up to most of the fair decks that, like, no bans are necessary, but, like, holy crap, it has gotten old. Yep. Okay, they're just gonna make another land drop there. Alright, there's not another Mystic Sanctuary. Is it another whale? It's another whale. At this point, I think I'm dead. Like, I can't answer both Mentor and Forager with a single card here. So, I think at 6 life, I am just ready to throw in the towel. GG. I probably lost that one to myself, though. Like, I wanted to save the second one of these for protecting a Marit Lage to go for lethal, when I probably just should have valued, like, taking the Mentor off the board and drawing 4. I thought about that line just 1 click too late. That's on me. Alright, final round here. We're 3-1. I'll be keeping my hand. We have, like, Elvish Reclaimer into Flagstones into Night or Endurance, depending on what exactly we need to do. Once upon a time, we'll probably figure out immediately what deck my opponent is on. Probably Elves after a Gaia's Cradle reveal. Definitely Elves. Since we saw a Gaia's Cradle reveal, I think I'm just going to Swords to Plowshares this creature immediately. While Nettle Sentinel is not necessarily one of the best elves to target with your removal, like, since I know with 100% certainty my opponent has a Cradle in hand, I just want to try to stifle some of their early development. Wow, main deck Collector Oof. This is potentially Fiend Artisan Elves. No, actually, no, it's probably not Fiend Artisan Elves. It's just probably a one of in the main deck because we just saw Nettle Sentinel. I think I'm willing to go ahead and fetch and thin here. Didn't really need red this game. I'll pick up a Savannah, play an Elvish Reclaimer, and my whole plan here is to just work towards producing Marit Lage. My opponent's not going to have any flyers. They, I guess, could have something like an Endurance that could block for a turn, but it's pretty unlikely. I don't have too much time. Like, my opponent can natural order me next turn. That's just a thing that can happen. Oh, no. Oh, we're not done yet either. Sure. I don't have a Tabernacle here, and even if I did, my opponent would have Gaia's Cradle. Yeah, I'll take 2. So, is there any world in which I survive? My opponent taps this. They have 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 5/5/5s. If I block 2 of them, I can still die. Okay. Yikes. Yeah, Maze of Ith I would get would enter tapped. Yeah, I'm dead to that. GG. That was pretty brutal, and things aren't going to get better for me. I now know the matchup. I know a fast Marit Lage hand or a highly interactive hand is where I want to be, but like Deafening Silence isn't particularly good, as they can play a Glimpse of Nature and then still rattle off all their creature spells. I will probably board in Glacial Chasm, but it's not particularly exciting. And Minsc and Boo is pretty slow here. The way to fling a Marit Lage, if that for any reason is relevant, but I don't think it's going to come up. I don't want to be playing initiative creatures versus elves. Elves is so good at going wide of initiative creatures and taking the initiative. So what do I want to board in for or board out for this Glacial Chasm? Could just be the Minsc and Boo. In fact, I think it is going to be. Could play an Endurance just as another body, but I'm not sure that there's anything that I don't want here. I could board out Bojuka Bog. At the end of the day, it's still a land drop for Mox Diamond. This is totally fine. I'll be keeping this one. I think this just gets me a Dryad Arbor on turn 1. Opponent has gone to 5. Let's Savannah and Green Sun picking up Dryad Arbor. If my opponent doesn't play out a creature for some reason, I can go for Knight of the Reliquary on my turn. If they do play out a creature, I can just Swords. My opponent probably doesn't combo me off on turn 2 here. I think with double Swords in hand, I'm just going to play out a Knight and then double Swords on my opponent's next turn. It's a little greedy on my end, but it feels right. I will play my small Knight. Imps Birchlore get wrecked. I mean, Heritage Druid is scary. Ooh. Yeah, this should wreck my opponent. So I will take out Heritage Druid. Don't really need Dryad Arbor here. So let's go ahead and sacrifice that. A plateau in the short term. Swords to Plowshares, Nettle Sentinel. Play out this land. My creature protection from some color here. Cast a Crop Rotation. Junking this. Picking up Wasteland. Taking out my opponent's 1 land. Yeah. Okay, so there was a massacre in both directions. Now we'll see if my opponent massacres me when they are on the play. They did mulligan multiple times that game. The Titania hand is not reasonable here. So let's go ahead and mulligan this one. I don't know that this is good enough. My Elvish Reclaimer isn't getting me a Tabernacle. I really think I need to open up on one of Swords to Plowshares or Prismatic Ending and interact with my opponent. I'm going to ship this. On 5, I will keep. Reluctantly, but I will keep. I think Reclaimer goes back and 1 fetch land goes back. Leaves me with a piece of acceleration. I may have to just wasteland my opponent's first land as my form of interaction here. It's awkward if they just grab a basic forest, though. Alright, it is a Birchlore. So this is getting me a Savannah. And then I'll pick up a Dryad Arbor with this. Not being able to interact with my opponent here is probably my downfall. I maybe should have mulliganed harder here, but like I had a hand that was reasonable under slightly different circumstances. Alright, yeah, I've just lost the knight here, because that's the card that I can easily play out on my turn. And it is a Heritage Druid. Not gonna be very... Oh, that's brutal. That means my Wasteland has been shut off, so to speak. Elvish Reclaimer? I think I need to keep putting lands into my graveyard. Don't have any red cards in the deck right now, so this can be a Savannah. Cast this for 1. Pick up the Reclaimer. Guess I'll just hold Dryad Arbor back. You know what? Get in there, little buddy. Like, I'd happily trade with any of my opponent's creatures. I suspect that I'm just dead to natural order. No, it is a Grist instead. That is still quite strong. That gets to take out my Elvish Reclaimer. And Quarian Ranger gets to poke me. This is cool. So it can Dryad Arbor, attack Grist, trade with one of their elves, and then play Knight. Alright, so send in on Grist. And we're going to bounce a forest to untap one of these. No! Okay, we're not. I was wrong about where that was going. Now, that might not be good news for me. That might just mean that, like, my opponent needs the bodies in play for a Gaia's Cradle or something. I mean, I like my opponent playing land drops rather than casting Glimpse or Natural Order. Green Sun for 2. So there's a card draw. And my opponent has access to 3 mana. Okay, we're chilling. So I work towards Dark Depths. I can't really Wasteland my opponent here. Not effectively anyway. Super sucks that I don't have a Tabernacle. So it's all going on the table here. The good news is that if my opponent attempts to go for a combo, they're gonna need Assassin's Trophy to get rid of my Glacial Chasm. Checking, I did board that in, right? I did board that in. Okay, we've weathered the storm at least for now. I don't really need Dryad Arbor. I don't really need Basic Plains either, though. I'll sacrifice Basic Plains this first time. We'll pick up a Maze of Ith. I could just start going for both combo pieces, though. That's probably better for me. Let's take Thespian Stage first. I can use my Thespian Stage to copy Wasteland. In case I do end up wanting to double Wasteland my opponent. Swords is really good. Swords is really, really good. So, let's take out the Quarian Ranger. Now, I can go ahead and safely start Wastelanding my opponent into Oblivion. Nice. Let's float mana with Dryad Arbor here. I'd rather keep Savannah. I will sacrifice this Dryad Arbor. Pick up a new Wasteland. Wasteland my opponent again. Activate Elvish Reclaimer. Sacrifice this. Picking up a Dark Depths. And then I have my combo going next turn. Not like the game is over, but that tilts things very heavily in my direction. That was a fantastic top deck. Ooh, that league was a slog. Those were hard-fought games, but this deck was pretty good. Let's take one last look at the deck list here. Generally speaking, Seasoned Dungeoneer was not something that I boarded in. I really wanted an additional card for the initiative matchup because I'm so scared of that matchup right now. But we just didn't get paired against it. We got paired against Delver and Delver-like things in most of the rounds, meaning that like the Endurances and the Titanias that were in the main deck were kind of covering a lot of the work that I needed done. So in terms of this league specifically, the Artifact Hate cards didn't pull their weight. The Seasoned Dungeoneers didn't pull their weight. Tower of the Magistrate didn't pull its weight. If I had gotten paired against, you know, say, 8 cast, like that would have spun on a dime, and I really would have needed those cards. But this deck was good. I'm not sure how necessary Titania is. Like, we didn't really go off with her this league, but her just being another 3/4 reach creature versus Delver was incredibly relevant. And in matches that I've played against her, like the the lands going in and out of the graveyard, especially if you have something like Ramunap Excavator, can add up a lot, and some of the games that I lost or won, like, the difference was a single point of life. I'm not ready to, say this should or shouldn't be in the deck yet. I don't know that it needs to be a 2 of. Like, promoting one more endurance to the main deck over the second Titania might just be a good idea. But generally speaking, I like a lot of what's going on here. But like my big question is like how is the initiative matchup? Because I'm very scared of it. And when you're dealing with like Swords to Plowshares, Touch the Spirit Realm, and Solitude as ways to just kill Marit Lage, you're probably not getting free ones against them, and their creatures scale up pretty quickly. With that said, I think that's all I've got for you today, folks. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And, okay, I don't remember if I said this or not. If I'm saying this again, I apologize. I also think this deck is hard to pilot when you're not paying full attention to it. Like, there were so many times where I thought about a line for literally 1 second more, and then I came up with a better line. So, like, I know I messed up today, and I identified a lot of those mistakes, and I'm sure there's probably more that I didn't catch. But, like, this is a deck that I think is very good at my current competency level. But I think if I had more reps with this, and if I, like, was not recording and was paying full attention to the games, I think this deck would be scary. All right, have a great rest of the day. See ya!